And welcome back to the Quick Focus Blueprint program. So in this lesson, we are going to combine some of the lessons from prior sessions with regards to eating, with regards to habits, with regards to distraction and digital devices. And what we're going to talk about here is being mindful and focused and concentrated while you actually eat. Now, what does this mean? Do you like to watch TV or play with your phone while you're eating meals? And here's the thing. If you said yes, or you or someone in your family does this regularly, it could be adding pounds to your body. And this is how it works. The latest research is saying that not paying attention to our food makes us more prone to eating and snacking later. There have been a series of experiments where researchers found that those who have been distracted by television, by their cell phones, by computer games while they ate their lunch, for example, didn't really pay attention to their meals. And it's thought that our memory from recent eating plays an important role in our appetite. So if we're distracted during a meal, we might not remember it as well and therefore have a greater appetite for snacks later. And that just makes a little bit of sense, right? That when we talk about memory and we do our memory training, we know focus and presence is key. But if you're distracted while you're eating, you're not going to remember it quite as well. And so they ran a number of experiments. And in this lesson, I want to give you some hacks on how to be more mindful while you eat, so you're not getting more unhealthy, if you will. Dr. Daniel Amen shows there's a correlation. He's the famous brain doctor who wrote Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. He shows the correlation between as we grow our bodies and become overweight, our brain actually becomes smaller. So there's many reasons why you want to be mindful while you eat. There was an experiment where they took 39 normal weight young women and they were randomly assigned one of three experimental conditions. There was a high distraction group, there was a low distraction group, and there was a no distraction group. And each person was given the same 400-calorie lunch consisting of several food items presented in a very fixed order, and they were instructed to eat all the items. And in the high distraction group, the women were told to play a computer game while eating. And so they actually were rewarding them and giving money if they did well. In the low distraction group, they were told to play the game while eating. And in the third group, they were just told to eat their lunch. And then later in the afternoon, each participant had access to a variety of biscuits and snacks on a plate. And the amount each person ate was assessed by weighing the plate before and after. And they found that there was a significant difference between the group. The University of Binghamton researchers found that the high distraction condition ate 69% more snacks than the non-distracted group. I mean, that is incredible. And those in the low distraction group actually 28% more than the non-distracted group. And so that's a huge difference. They did a second experiment involving further with 63 people, and it was similar, but they involved watching television, and that was the distraction, and eating soup and eating bread. And this found out that those who watched TV while eating their lunch ate 19% more biscuits later on than those had eaten a meal without distractions. So there's some clear differences here. So if you are worried about, let's say, overeating, if you're worried about your weight, paying attention to what you eat, not less, could actually keep you from overeating. And that's the challenge here, right? We talked about distractions. We talked about multitasking. So if you're multitasking, like you're eating while watching television, or you're on your phone, or you're working, and you're distracted, and hurried eating can prompt you actually to eat more. And slowing down and really savoring your food can actually control your intake. And the studies pointed to really two conclusions. Number one, that being distracted or not paying attention to a meal tended to make people eat more at the meal. And paying attention to a meal was linked to eating less later on when it came to snacks. And these results, I think they're common sense. And the challenge is how do you take this and turn it into common practice? Because hunger isn't the only thing that influences how much you eat during the day. There's attention, there's memory, the kind of things that we train. For example, after you start eating, it takes about 20 minutes or so before the brain begins to send out I'm full, this message really that signals to turn off your appetite. And if you're hurrying or you're not paying attention, it's very easy to take in too many calories than you need in those 20 minutes. And if you aren't mindful of what's going on in your mouth, you don't process that information. So it's better to really be present. That means it doesn't get stored in your memory bank. So how do you actually eat more mindfully? You can practice it every single day with every activity, as we've been doing in this program, especially when it comes to eating, right? And this is a wonderful exercise to practice today and every single day. Because when you apply it to eating and you bring mindfulness into your meals, just start noticing like the smells and the flavors, the colors, the textures of what you're eating. And it also means getting rid of distractions, because put away the phone. Do not use your phone while you're eating. Don't watch television or do other things and work on your computer, because it creates a lot of challenges. And we know a lot of people do this. They've done a lot of studies, like for example, Pew Research Center found that 88% of respondents believe generally it's not okay to use a cell phone during dinner. I mean, over 82% of people said that using a phone in social settings hurt conversations, at least occasionally. However, that fact isn't stopping people from ripping out their smartphones and their devices. 89% of people said that they use their phone during their most recent social gatherings, to text, to email, to take photos, an example. And so even without active use, the presence of like these mobile technologies, these smart devices, these digital screens has the potential to divert individuals from face-to-face exchanges. And it really undermines the character and the connections that we have with people. There was a study done at Virginia Tech saying that individuals are more likely to miss subtle cues and facial expressions and changes in tonality and for example, physiology and posture. They have less contact just because they're on their phone when they're eating or meeting people for the first time. And researchers have long understood that this temptation, with our little screens changes the way we interact with people. People have done studies where they've demonstrated that cell phone use makes us more selfish, easily distracted, and more stressed. And so really, you want to be able to moderate this. And each of these episodes, when we're talking about distraction, is just getting your conscious awareness around this, because the beginning of all transformation, the beginning of all change begins really with just being aware. So sometimes awareness could be enough. When we talk about the best foods for your brain and maybe the poor foods that's really taking away from your focus, just maybe the awareness will be like, okay, this is a reminder here. I need to be better next time. And so they've done a small observational study that suggested when parents and young children dine together, parents frequently pay more attention to their phones. I mean, this is really concerning, because this really confirms the mere passive presence of cell phones really lowers the quality of conversation, even when we're not looking at them. In modern day life, we have the phones that are there, but it's still distracting, even if it's just in the room. And that could be a big challenge. And so how do you get over this? Let's apply it towards eating. If mindfulness is important during meals, which we know it is, and maybe it's a new concept, all you have to do is start somewhere. Remember, we've talked about the overcoming procrastination. You don't have to do everything. You just want to, and you're not going to get it perfect. You just want to make progress. So one of the things you could do is, obviously, you could put your phone away, right? You could turn off the television, you could put your phone away, and you could just sit and be present with the people that you're with, really savoring the meal as you're eating. And try eating with your non-dominant hand. We talk about in our quick reading program the power of using your non-dominant hand, or your left hand for most people, while they read. And what it can do while you're eating is it helps give you mindfulness. It's just like a technique where if you want to be more mindful, you just start wiggling your toes, because it gets you in the presence. But if you use your opposite hand, it puts yourself, your presence, your observation, your attention really in the now. If you want, while you're eating, you could try using chopsticks if you don't normally use them, or try, if you want to combine the two, you could use chopsticks in your non-dominant hand. Another thing you could do is just eat silently for a few minutes. thinking about what it took to actually create this meal, where the produce came from, where your protein came from, and just think about it from literally from farm to table. The other thing you could do is, and this is highly recommended, is your stomach doesn't have teeth. So take many bites, chew every single bite that you have and turn it into something that your body could better digest. And another tip is this, is when you open the fridge or you open up the kitchen cabinets, just take a moment and be mindful in the present. You could take a breath and ask yourself, am I really hungry? Am I really hungry right now? We talked about in one of these lessons, we talked about habits and how you have reminders and triggers and also these rewards. And then the routines, right? You have your reminder, you have your routine, and you have the reward for what you're going to get out of performing that routine. But a lot of people, they're doing things out of habit, but they're not really getting the reward. Like, are you really hungry, or can you do something else? Can you pick up a book? Can you go for a walk? And really test that sequence for yourself. And so maybe a reminder could start a brand new routine that will get you a different reward that you really want. And so we know by doing this that being mindful, this is your lesson for today, is be mindful while you eat. Test this for yourself. Create an experiment for yourself and your family and just say, hey, for the next 20 minutes, let's put our phones away. When I'm out and doing business meetings and people took their phones and they put a stack of their phones, they said we stacked all the phones up while we're eating, and it was like 6 of us. And we stacked the phones right in the corner of the table and we enjoyed our meal. And we said, hey, the first person that picks up their phone has to pay for the meal. And you could make a game out of it, right? You could gamify this experience. But the goal here is to eliminate distractions, just like we have in your work environment, just like we have when you're going to sleep. What we're doing here is we're just getting you present. For the meals that you're eating that day, take a pause. Turn off your digital devices, be present, enjoy the food, smell it, taste it, notice the color, make it fully sensory for yourself, take lots of bites, and chew really well, and just be present. And what I want you to do is, as your homework, is in the comments, I want some feedback here. How are you normally? How you, your team, your family normally eat? Do you eat with digital devices? Do you need the television on in the background? Are you eating and working and not really digesting to your best ability? And how are you going to, above and beyond some of these tips, what are some of your tips for getting present while you eat? And I find that you will pay better attention to what you're putting into your mouth. You're more likely to make better choices when it comes to what you're going to eat. And you can enjoy your meals, you can enjoy your snacks more fully. Let's test this for ourselves. Great job today. Congratulations again. And I look forward to seeing you and your focus tomorrow.